Alrighty, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you all basically the diagram that we'll want to create in our engineering notebook if we need assistance in being able to determine what our cripple stud lengths are going to be like. And so whenever we go to actually create the door opening, this is basically a sectional view of what that door opening is going to look like. Remember, a sectional view is basically if we slice something in half and we see it on the inside. So basically what I did is in our good old Onshape is I created a rectangle that was just a construction line rectangle, right? Just so that we see overall, so it should be 24 inches tall, and then it's gonna be 1.5 inches in width. Now, why is that? It's because our studs, although they're 1x2 studs, it's actually 0.75 inches by 1.5 inches. And so I'm just depicting right here the width of that stud, which is 1.5 inches. So now what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to use the corner rectangle tool, and I'm going to create up here the top plate. So you can see it's by default 1.5. This guy right here is going to be 0.75 inches. And so now I've got this top plate in here. So then next what we need to end up doing is creating our cripple stud. Now, this cripple stud, it's going to really base or depend on, you know, the height of this is going to depend on how big your window opening is, or not window opening, but door opening is going to be. So if we end up using the dimension tool, we can actually dimension from the bottom to the top here. And what we actually want to do first though, is we want to end up creating our double header here. So these are going to be our 1x2 inch studs, which is actually 0.75 by 1.5. I'm just going to go ahead and create these guys, and so we actually are going to go with 2. I know that I said in class we were going to use 1, but we probably should make sure that we do this right if we're going to do it. And so I'm going to go ahead and dimension these guys out just to make sure that they're correct dimensions. And so now, as we were saying, our door height is going to depend on what you end up choosing. Now, whenever I look this up online, I end up finding for these setups that typically our heights can definitely vary for our door openings. Usually they are 80 inches though. What we want to end up doing is basically adding 2.5 inches on the top just for our actual framing of the door. So we're going to actually create this opening as 82.5 inches. Now, as you remember, we do need to scale this down. Our scaling is 1 to 5. And so what I can end up doing here is I go in from the bottom and I can end up typing in the 82.5. And then if I divide this by 5, it's actually going to give us that value of how tall that's going to be. So actually in our scaling, it's going to be 16.5 inches. Now, what we also should note here is that we do not actually have a sole plate for our door. So if you go back to this drawing, you'll see any door openings, we actually don't have the sole plate on that part. So it's actually going to be cut off here. Okay. So now going back to Onshape here, we've got this opening, which is 16.5 inches. Now what we can do is we can determine what these cripple studs height is going to be. So if I just click on this with the dimension tool, we can see that it's going to be 5.25 inches. So if you end up having a door opening, which is the standard 80 inches in height, remember we got to add in the 2.5 inches for the framing, and then basically we're just going to divide that by 5 to actually scale this down. So in our scaling, it's going to be 16.5 inches in height. We know that this right here, the cripple stud height is going to be 5.25 inches for each cripple stud. And then this height is also going to be the same for actual jack stud. So if we go back to this drawing, you know, we got the jack stud that's right here on both sides, followed by the king stud that is on the outside. So this should be helpful. This is basically what you want your diagram to end up looking like, is something like this in your engineering notebook, so that you can determine what kind of dimensions we need for those cripple studs. Hope that was helpful. If you all have any other questions, please do feel free to ask them in class. See you later.